Hello, unwanted children. Before we get started today, I'd just like to point out that we're doing a bit of a contest. For the show's holiday special this year, we're going to be selecting 5 viewer-submitted stories that you guys have written, and we'll be giving them the full Unwanted Children treatment and releasing them as our holiday special. So if you have an idea for a dark fairy tale that's up to 2,500 words long, copyright remains with you, the writer, and all we ask is that you give the show the opportunity to present your work. So if you're interested, please check out our Twitter or Facebook feeds where details and the deadline will be available. Periodically Productions presents Fairy Tales for Unwanted Children. Triumph Over Death by Scott Thrower. Once upon a time there was a boy whose parents died. As he stood atop their graves, surrounded by neighbors and cousins, the boy vowed that he would triumph over death. And of course, no one believed him. Still, he tried. He pursued health and was a very picture of it. And yet every year he grew older. He sought magic and found real magic too difficult to work, and the costs left him hollow, ill, and mistrusted. He found wishes and stretched them until they broke. And though he was now much older than any man had the right to be, with each day he grew older still, and the specter of death inched closer. Finally, a cloaked and broken wreck, locked away in a tower far from man and beast, he accepted that he would never triumph over death without inviting death in, and so he laid a trap. Thus it was that the crooked man stood in the deepest room of the tower, over the bleeding body of a lamb, waiting for the shadow of death to flicker through the torchlight. But death did not come. On the second night, he stood over the gasping shape of a fallen shepherd, still clutching the vial of poison in his hand, eagerly waiting for the arrival of his guest. But death did not come. On the third night, the man eased himself into the tower basement nervously. He checked the mechanisms upon the stairs, making sure that each would snap into action and seal the archways. He ran his fingers across the magics locked in sigils on the walls, and felt them thrum in his chest in a comforting way. This time, as he waited for death, it was his own blood that splashed across the floor. His eyes darted quickly around the room, waiting for the smallest shift or breeze that might tell him he was not alone. The blood that gushed from his side turned black between his fingers, and still there was no unfamiliar scent. The room grew cold, but the man was not certain if it was the loss of blood or some change around him. So he waited longer still. It wasn't until he staggered and could not steady himself again that he realized he had waited too long. But now it was clear. Death did not come. Years passed, as years do. The forest grew wild and tangled, and even the stones of the tower showed their age. No one remained to see the building become ruins, or to hear the stones crashing down, the mechanisms shatter, or the spells fade away to whispers. An age passed before the man sat up in the deepest room beneath what had once been a tower. All around him was a tight crush of rock in the darkness of the buried. But he could sense a presence near at hand, and then he could see it. The thing that was darker than darkness, moving around him. "I could not defeat you," the man said ruefully, "but I held you at bay." Death circled him silently. "But what did it get you?" came the reply, deep and wet, a voice from a forgotten place. "Time, I suppose," said the man, watching the blot of ink move past. "And what good was that? I have met children who have lived fuller lives. The man laughed, and the sound of it was swallowed by the weight of the earth and the crush of the stone. He felt the texture of the bones beneath him. "Who are you to judge?" "I am death," came the reply. It was then that the man realized that death was not alone, and that while death circled one way, something else went the other. It smelled of dust and rot, and the man wasn't sure why, but it terrified him. "You take everyone away, and all I ever wanted was mercy," the man said, now hearing a quaver in his voice and feeling a shake in his chest. "I am death," came the reply. "What am I, if not mercy?" The man withdrew into his bones, hoping that the brittle shapes could protect him from the second guess that circled just past death. "Please leave me," the man said, from somewhere amongst his ribs. "Then I cannot protect you," came the reply. And death withdrew from the deepest room beneath what had been a tower. But death withdrew alone. Time remained, and it never went away. Did you find a moral for this week's story? Let us know on Twitter at periodicallypod, or join the Fairy Tales for Unwanted discussion group on Facebook. For more fairy tales for unwanted children, join us at unwantedchildren.ca.